the Sandy and the Rio Tinto Stadium. This afternoon, that's the trophy they play for. The Houston Dash and the Chicago Red Stars. Mike Watts, Jen Cooper, glad to have you aboard here on Twitch. It's been a long month, and here we are, Jen. The bracket is complete, and I think everyone's excited to see what's ahead.
And you know, I don't think anyone would have predicted that these two teams would be in the final, Mike, but they are. Houston coming into this tournament having never made a knockout game in their club history. Chicago having made the playoffs the last 5 straight seasons. Houston, so much to prove. They wanted to come in and show everybody this is not the same old Dash. So we look at how Houston got here. They started the tournament with a bang. 3 goals in their opening match, and then kind of didn't score as much as the tournament went on until they broke through in the semifinal to eliminate Portland. Of course, having to get to the semifinal on penalties against Utah. So it's been an up and down tournament for the Dash, but I think they found their groove with Rachel Daly getting that goal in the semifinal. Chicago, it really took a while for their offense to come together, but when it came together, Mike, boy, did it come together. 3 goals in that semifinal against Sky Blue, hanging on for the win after they let Sky Blue get 2 goals in late. And the goals coming from 3 different players, 5 over the course of the tournament. That's got to bode well for them in this final, that they're getting offense from many different players.
No question, and things got a little dicey at the end against Sky Blue. Gave up an own goal, only 1 shot on target, and well, statistically, that's a bit of an anomaly. They gave up 2. So we've got Houston in their first final, Chicago in their second. Someone's grabbing their first NWSL trophy. The championship game when we come back.
The 2 most important acquisitions in the offseason for the Dash, I believe, to really shore up their defense. They have a chance today, Mike, to set a new club record for consecutive minutes without allowing a goal. Otherwise, same lineup that we saw in the semifinal. Again, Nichelle Prince getting the start. We hope to see something from her, and Rachel Daly, tournament MVP up top, of course.
Yeah, that tournament MVP sponsored by Budweiser. Let's take a look at the starting lineup for Chicago. There are a lot of missing names here. No Gautreau, no Davidson, no Casey Short. And Short's backup Goralski is out, so Kayla Sharple's biggest game of her life.
Just the second start for her as a pro. First ever draftee out of Northwestern. Big day for Kayla Sharples. The rest of the lineup, again, same as the semifinal, including goal scorers Rachel Hill, Savannah McCaskill, and this is the big surprise of the tournament, I'd say, Bianca St. George.
For the Chicago Red Stars, they felt like they hit their wall early on. Compelling images during the national anthem. That's how it started. That's how this ends. We throw to our public address announcer in Utah.
As we recognize the real heroes of the NWSL Challenge Cup. The NWSL would like to thank its Medical Task Force, ARUP, the University of Utah, Intermountain Healthcare, Unified Fire, High Class Maintenance, and United Healthcare for keeping all players and staff safe. 4 weeks, 23 games, more than 2,000 COVID tests taken with no positive results because of you. Thank you for being the real heroes. And now to honor America, Heather Jackman will perform the U.S. National Anthem.
Oh, say, can you see by the dawn's early light what so proudly we hailed at the twilight's last gleaming, whose broad stripes and bright stars through the perilous fight o'er the ramparts we watched were so gallantly streaming, and the rocket's red glare, the bombs bursting in air, gave proof through the night that our flag was still there. Oh, say does that star-spangled banner
The NWSL Challenge Cup Championship game from Rio Tinto Stadium in Sandy, Utah. It's the Dash and the Red Stars. Couple players to watch in this game. Why not watch the MVP?
Of course, Rachel Daly with the game winner in the semifinal against Portland. And of course, she started the tournament with 2 goals in the very first game. She has been the driving force for this team. We saw her motivational speech to the team after the win in the semifinal saying this circle does not break. She's got a chance in this game to even earn the Golden Boot if she gets a goal or an assist, but more importantly, she wants a win for her team.
Meanwhile, Savannah McCaskill plays a little bit like Christine Sinclair. If you ask the Houston Dash side, that's how they have to defend her.
She can not only score an important goal, she had the game winner in the semifinal, she can also assist important goals like this one in the first round that gave Chicago their only win of the first round. Very important 3 points for them. She's done so much work in the offseason. Rory Dames has talked about how she's really become the 90-minute player that the team needed her to be.
And with that, Rio Tinto Stadium opened in 2008. There are few games that match this magnitude, and yet everyone knows no fans in the stands. It's going to be a bit quieter. It's been a month in the making. The NWSL Challenge Cup Championship game, Houston and Chicago. If you talk with Rory Dames, you talk with James Clarkson, they miss being home. They're excited to go home, but they have a little bit of work here to do, Jen, to make sure they go home the right way. Chicago went to the final last year, and they have not lived it down that they fell behind so early against North Carolina. And for Houston, no one in James Clarkson's estimation ever gave them a chance to be here. So 2 very different situations.
One of the oldest teams in the league, having even existed in the WPS era. And like we talked about before, Chicago having been to the playoffs the last 5 seasons. Dash, this is the first time they've ever reached the knockout stage.
James Clarkson there on your screen a moment ago, the head coach for Houston in his 2nd season. It's been a rocky road for the Houston Dash over the years. The Vera Paw administration gave way to James Clarkson, and there seems to be a stunning lack of drama around this team in the grand scheme, something Clarkson himself has imposed over his 2 years at the helm. Over Prince, foot race, Daly will pursue. Simple from Alyssa Nair, the U.S. Women's National Team top choice goalkeeper.
And when Rachel Daly's running at Alyssa Nair, Mike, do you think she's envisioning the semifinal from last summer, she playing for England, looking at Alyssa Nair as the U.S. keeper?
I think she just sees red in her eyes, and it's like a bull chasing a cape. Whether Alyssa can pull that cape out in time is the real question.
One of the things I really like about the change we've seen with the Dash is a bigger commitment by the club to support the Dash, especially this season with a marketing campaign that's both Dynamo and Dash together. They're coming up with the Hold It Down hashtag. And also last season, it's hard to believe, but last season was the first season the Dash had 4 full-time coaches.
Yeah. I love how you put it, my kind of town versus Hold It Down in the lead up to this game.
Or Windy City versus Bayou City.
2 of the biggest cities in the country taking part in an NWSL final. You don't get a lot of this with all the years of
Portland, Western Earth Flash, North Carolina.
You're talking 2 of the 5 biggest population centers in the nation. Hopefully this can spur some continued growth in both cities. They've really taken to these clubs. Welcome more onto the bandwagon. Ball from Mewis was taken away only for a moment. Mewis again, Vasali, now Mewis.
I love that we saw the Houston Texans tweet in support of the Dash. Of course, J.J. Watt of the Houston Texans tweeting in support of Chicago.
Mewis around the outside, got by Sharples. Is that a penalty? It is! First penalty in the run of play the entire tournament. And Katya Koroleva sends Houston to the spot in the 4th minute. And Kayla Sharples shown a yellow card. It is her first start in a game of this magnitude, her 2nd as a pro.
Newis making the run down the left flank, cutting into the box. Sharples behind her, taking her down. Koroleva making that call pretty quickly. We have not had a penalty kick attempt all season, and surprisingly, it's not Rachel Daly stepping up, who's 3 for 3 from the spot in NWSL, but Sophie Schmidt, who converted Dash's first PK in their quarterfinal shootout against Utah. Listener, she has faced more PKs than any other player in NWSL.
Big moment for Alyssa Nair. The Canadian international Schmidt looks on and delivers. The Houston Dash grabbed the lead in the 5th minute, and this story, this journey just continues for Houston.
First goal of the tournament for Canadian Sophie Schmidt. Right-footed shot to the right side. Nair guessing the other way. Houston gets on the board with the earliest goal scored in this tournament and the first penalty kick goal of the entire tournament.
What a moment for Houston. Their offense went completely silent for 375 minutes. Found a goal in the semifinal after a scoreless draw, led to penalties in the quarterfinal against Utah, against whom they had scored 3 in the preliminary round. And all of a sudden, this NWSL Challenge Cup championship game has early juice.
The entire tournament, Mike, the team that scores first has never lost. Now, that doesn't mean they've always won. So there have been some draws in there.
Vasali. Daly. Hansen, typically a holding midfielder. They like Schmidt in that role, so she's slotted in it right back. Over Aaron Simon. Prince. Prince on the dance. Prince crossing Vasali. It's over her foot. There was a light cutback ball behind her. If she had seen that, perhaps it would have been an easier play to get a shot on goal, but good nonetheless.
Prince doing the work on the far side, getting past her mark and getting the crossover. Nothing Vasali can do with that, just a little bit out of her reach. Prince had such a great game in the semifinals. So many crosses, created a lot of chances. Nothing quite on frame, but it's been great to see her return to the starting lineup. She did have to miss the first game of the tournament for family reasons, so was a little delayed getting back into the starting lineup.
I feel like Prince is really under the radar in this league, and that's saying something. She has been around, and a full international going back to 2013 for Canada. As this comes off Sarah Gordon, takes it back. For what it's worth, in the final last year in October, North Carolina scored in the 4th minute through Dabinia. In this instance, Houston scores in a final against Chicago in the 5th minute, with the foul that led to the penalty in the 4th. Ahead by Watt, the offside flag up on McCaskill.
And I don't see either of these teams backing down, especially Chicago. I would describe both of these teams as gritty teams that can really eke out a win. Although, of course, Chicago has more of a history of that than, say, Houston.
No.
Hey now. But the difference we're seeing with Houston, I feel like the club is turning a corner. You know, as I mentioned in the open, that they have a chance to set a new club record for minutes without allowing a goal. And it's not a high number, but it shows you that they have not had consistency over the years. I also feel like we've seen the evolution of Rachel Daly as an explosive player to leader, captain, motivator, the glue that holds this team together.
I spoke with Ian Stone, the head coach at St. John's, her college coach, over the last few days, and he described best decision you could make Rachel your captain. And there's a great article from Graham Hayes on ESPN about the role that she's played. And of course, for Leeds, I thought promotion of the Premier League was the biggest event that was going to happen for her this week. not the case.
When it
Julie
rains,
Ertz
it
in there.
pours.
Other way around. Well, I don't know. The cup overflowing?
Yeah, that's it. That's better. That's better.
Knocked away by Schmidt. For those who don't know, for Chicago, missing a ton of pieces, Alyssa Motz and Aaron Gilliland, now Aaron Wright, both missed the entire tournament. Morgan Gautreau, Yuki Nagasato, Tierna Davidson, Ella Stevens, all picked up injuries along the way. And it missed significant time. Casey Short has missed the last few games as well. For Chicago, you're talking realistically 4 or 5 starters in that bunch.
Well, and Motz and Wright were never on the tournament roster.
Right.
Houston only missing Christine Nairn, listed under general medical on the injury report. But I'm just impressed that they're able to start Megan Oyster, what, 5, 9 some days after a rib injury?
Cracked rib.
Yeah.
And a pretty brutal one at that, from the view of it.
James Clarkson talked about how she wanted to play in the semifinal. He's like, whoa, one thing at a time, one thing at a time.
There's a little interchange through Mewis. Caskell slides in. And allowed back for Jane Campbell to take over. Human cheat code and penalty kicks. Jane Campbell is a spectacular specimen when it comes to spot kicks. Certainly the dash, a lead already. Hope it doesn't come to that. But still someone who has a high enough ceiling that perhaps the goalkeeper on the other end of the field could be giving her pointers on how to handle being the #1 national team goalkeeper somewhere down the line.
Campbell was the youngest ever goalkeeper brought into the senior national team camp at the age of just 17. A few caps, but not in more than 2 years. And the goalkeeper pool is so deep. Especially what we've seen in this tournament coming from Britt Eckerstrom, Aubrey Bledsoe, Bella Bixby, so many great American keepers.
Well, and you got to get through Adriana Franch, who wasn't able to play in this tournament due to injury. Ashlyn Harris and Bledsoe has certainly earned some talk. But a goalkeeper's prime, usually late 20s, early 30s. Campbell only 25. Pushed ahead, maybe there's something here for Houston. Prince is racing down the right-hand side. Eventually stabbed away from Groom. That's St. George. What a goal she scored in the semifinal. A toe poke off the post, just inside the penalty area.
Also assisted one of Chicago's 3 goals.
Yep.
I wish we could create a special tournament award for St. George, like breakout player, surprise player,
Comeback player.
comeback player,
All those knee injuries over an 18-month span. And
best dual citizen player.
I think Sophie Schmidt now has something to say about that, right?
She's not dual citizen.
No, full-on Canadian.
She may now also be a New Zealander because of her husband, but
Yeah.
I don't know. Yeah, there are some that refer to the Dash or even the Dynamo in the past as Canada South. Dash having 4 Canadians, 3 allocated, plus Megan Kelly, another dual citizen.
Rio Tinto Stadium in Sandy. Goal in the 5th minute. Sophie Schmidt on a penalty drawn by Christy Mewis. One side keeper notes. Mike Watts on air. Daly will get out of the reach of Prince.
And I loved hearing the story, Mike, about this was the stadium where Kalia Watt won her high school championship on penalties her senior year. Of course, she won all 4 years playing at Alta High School. She said in the press conference, like, you know, great memory, but I don't feel the need to win on penalties again.
Draper, Utah, her hometown. And of course, this game carries that extra weight. The former club, the one that she asked to be traded away from, to play for Rory Dames. That was such a big part of why she chose to go to Chicago. Speaking with Rory over the last month, all those little nuances of being a great goal scorer, the tells of a defender when you're pressing. Finishing at just a slightly higher clip that takes you from being around the national team pool to being an elite player consistently called up. Chicago into the final third looking for an equalizer. Watt made the early run. It's over. Watt punch down. Campbell's out. McCaskill off the post. And then Vasali knocks it over. And McCaskill knows she just had a golden opportunity to level this thing.
I am not sure how that did not go in the net. Here's the cross with the left foot. Campbell punches it out. McCaskill's right there with her head. Cannot quite keep it on frame. Pressure from the defender and Campbell, but Vasali ultimately knocking that out. Tremendous chance for Chicago.
And here's the danger moment. Corner kick, and Julie Ertz is in the box. For everybody, Kalia Watt with the new team, a new name. Married over the offseason to J.J. Watt, who's very much supporting Chicago, as one would anticipate, despite playing for the Houston Texans.
He's even wearing Chicago Red Stars gear today. We saw him tweet the picture.
He tweets different Red Stars gear every time he's on Twitter. He's got a whole closet of it.
First time for Kalia to face her old team. It's similarly Katie Naughton, who came to Houston in that trade. First time for her to play against Chicago, where she played her entire pro career until this year.
Rory Dames told us this week if there is any solace whatsoever in getting all the way to a final and potentially not winning the trophy, it would be that Katie Naughton is one of the best people he's been around. And that her winning a trophy take some marginal sting out of it. Houston the 4 seed, Chicago the 6 seed. Portland knocked off North Carolina in the quarterfinals, the number 8 seed. Of course, nothing's been decided yet about how the draft and the order of the draft will go. That's really a next year problem. And of course, Louisville's coming in next year, racing Louisville.
Yeah, because it affects expansion draft, college draft, maybe, you know, and then there could be games in the fall we don't know. It's all question marks.
And even there was a tremendous amount of discussion about moving players around because the expansion draft was coming. Potentially could only keep so many allocated players, as Daly trying to force Gordon into an error, and Groom nearly took it too.
Chicago right now sitting on 5 U.S. allocated players.
And look at North Carolina. If indeed the reports from The Athletic are true, Sam Mewis going to Manchester City, how does that affect things? Is she still on the roster going into next year?
Do they hold her
protect
rights?
her?
Do they have to protect her rights? Yeah.
Some of this music we play by ear. Schmidt. Minute here. Houston into the attack. Pull across over the top of Vasali. Bad idea from Hanson and this Houston offense.
Hanson, the top draft pick for Houston in 2018. They hadn't had a first-round pick since 2016, where they had 3, including Rachel Daly. And then, of course, the year before that, they had Morgan Bryan, now Gautreau, who's on the other side of the field today. Lots of Houston-Chicago trades in the past.
Rory Dames knows the speed dial.
And he definitely knows draft picks. No one has taken as many players in the draft as Rory Dames has for Chicago.
Six of the players in the Chicago starting lineup were drafted by the Red Stars. Some others around before the NWSL draft was a thing. Alyssa Nair comes to mind.
And early on in the league, it was pretty rare for a player to stay with her first club. There was so much movement. But as we've seen the league mature, we've seen players stay more. But Chicago from the beginning has been about drafting local players. Obviously, Rory Dames has the scouting connections, being part of the Eclipse Youth Soccer Club. We've see him draft a lot of players, even if they're not from the Chicago area, but they've played there collegiately. So you're kind of building a community team.
Look at Kayla Sharples, perfect example. Played at Northwestern, Chicago area, played for Eclipse, and then comes into the team this year as the 26th overall pick in the 3rd round. And in this instance has conceded a penalty.
Yeah, couldn't quite break into the senior roster last year until the World Cup window. She was signed to basically a national team replacement player contract. She and Hannah Davison in the same situation, but stuck around because they loved the culture of the club. They saw that they had a future with the club.
Yeah, Hot Time in Old Town had a good article about Sharples embracing the unknown that comes with being a 3rd round draft pick in this league. It guarantees you very little. McCaskill. Good win by Naughton, former Red Star. Sharples. All that's going to make things a little bit interesting. Knocked out by Hansen. Soccer fans, the official shop of the NWSL is now open. Visit NWSLshop.com now and sign up to receive special offers and promotions. NWSLshop.com, the official place to gear up and support your favorite team.
And international shipping is now available. They've got Challenge Cup merch, a Pride tee, and gear for all the current teams, plus Racing Louisville FC.
Already?
Already.
Ooh.
No merch yet for LA, for
Angel
Angel City.
City.
It's a little early because they're probably still designing a brand. But good on Louisville, who've already sold more than 2,000 season ticket deposits.
Yeah. I've covered enough Louisville City games over the years to tell you their new 15,000 state-of-the-art stadium is the perfect venue for the NWSL, and that city is going to absolutely adore that team. Of course, there's so many Cincinnati products, and some players have played in Kentucky, at UK, at Louisville. Should be able to find some local products there too. Mewis.
Well, and I love seeing different kind of investment groups come into the league, not necessarily connected with MLS, but a USL connection, or with Angel City, an independent connection.
Angel City's just the entire the walk of stars in Hollywood got together.
So they're going to have stars on their crest now.
Eventually, all across for Vasali. Got to earn those.
I had a fan question yesterday, Mike, saying, would the winner of this get to put a star on their jersey?
Red Stars already have a bunch.
I know.
McCaskill. Hill making a weaving run. McCaskill, that ricochets and comes right to Campbell.
I said no because this is equivalent, in a way, I'd say the closest equivalent maybe to like the US Open Cup. For like, if an MLS team won the Open Cup, they would put a star on. This is, it's a different thing.
Some clubs do have different sets of stars. One for domestic competition, one for your league. In the case of
that's
a team
what we
like,
need.
Yeah, like LA Galaxy has one big gold star for the fact that they at one time won CONCACAF.
Way back in the day.
Those were the days.
Chicago does have one trophy in their past from 2012, which was between their WPS era and their NWSL era. They won the USASA National Cup, which is basically the amateur, semi-pro, basically, you're not a youth cup like U23, so anyone can enter. It is a pretty serious competition. And they won the whole thing in 2012. So they've got one trophy in their cabinet, but not an NWSL trophy. And nothing that any of these players remember.
It's Watt. Leading Hill down the line. Is there an equalizer here in the offing for Chicago? It's short of McCaskill. Hammered by DiBernardo. Does have history scoring in this stadium. Colaprico.
Colaprico with the first ever goal, NWSL goal rather, in this stadium. She scored the game winner for Chicago in Utah's inaugural NWSL match back in April 2018. Sold out crowd for this one, or for that one rather, not this one. This would be a sellout crowd if we could have a crowd, right?
I would think so. Colaprico rolls all the way through. Hill on the run. She was offside. Alicia Chapman made no mistake. Coming into this game, could not have heard two different stories from two different coaches. Alicia Chapman is a player we can exploit with Watt and Hill out wide on one side. The other coach saying 1v1 defending is Chapman's best strength and maybe one of the best in the league. This instance, Hill indeed marginally offside, but Chapman's been steady thus far and they really haven't challenged her.
And so speedy on that flank, and we've seen her all tournament getting pretty far up too. I feel like she's got an assist or goal coming. She's never scored for Canada, for LSU, for the Dash, but I can see it coming. She's one of just two players on this Dash roster whose tenure with the club dates back to 2015. With the departure of Kalia Watt, no players left from the inaugural season in 2014, but Chappie first joined the team in 2015 as an allocated player.
And after a 3-year odyssey in Sweden, time in Boston and in North Carolina, and now, of course, back in Houston.
Great article with Chapman on NWSLsoccer.com saying it's about time.
There have been a lot of iterations of the Dash over the years. The Carly Lloyd years, the time where Kalia Ohai was the league's leading scorer, and a knee injury put that on the back burner for a while. Now, of course, Watt on the ball for Chicago. You've been there in Houston. You went through the initial era, bring in a top-notch college coach, Randy Waldrum from Notre Dame. Doesn't go according to plan. Vera Paul was next.
Well,
now they seem to have it right.
I feel a little bit like those first couple of years, Houston was a guinea pig, and I'm sure Randy Waldrum would agree with me that Houston being the very first expansion team and also happening so late, basically being announced December 2013 for a April 2014 launch. There are just a lot of things, a lot of really last-minute decisions. And so one of the things I'm very excited about with NWSL expansion now, Louisville was announced last fall for launching next year. LA was announced last week for launching the year after. That, to me, is really growth for the league.
And James O'Connor said they should have a coach in place in the next 3 to 5 weeks from now for Racing Louisville. Settled here. It's Johnson from distance. It's caught by Jane Campbell. And maybe Chicago is growing into this game now.
And we've seen them all tournament grow into their offense. I'm sure that semifinal game with 3 goals, and they did need all 3 since they let Sky Blue sneak back in the second half with 2 goals. But getting the confidence of scoring that much after only scoring 2 goals in the first round.
It's Prince on the run. Has the Jets to catch up with this. Put St. George under pressure. Now Prince driving through. There's an appeal for a penalty, and I don't think you're getting that call twice on essentially a mirror image of the same play.
Especially when we've seen so few calls of that type.
Well, interesting situation here. Let's first take a look back at this with Prince. Is this a penalty to you? If anything, the contact starts outside the area. No?
I wouldn't say penalty.
And this is a surprise. Christy Mewis tearfully comes off the field. One wonders what niggling injury has been biting at her over time. And Cece Kaiser out of Ole Miss steps in for what's going to be her most extended period of time on the field in the entire tournament.
We've seen her in every game, but she's only come in late in the second half. She was the most used sub for the Dash last year. Heartbreaking, though, to see Christy Mewis leave this game.
Visali. There is no like for Christy Mewis. That is a major loss for the Houston Dash. Let's see if we can't get a better idea here. Mewis racing down the field, draw this penalty in the 4th minute, and that's your game changer right now. Sort of grabbed at her leg a little bit there, and one wonders if that was the beginning of a percolating injury over time. And we spoke already about how large in part the injury bug has stayed away from the Dash.
Well, bounces out from last year, right? Where they lost Nichelle Prince during the World Cup. Kayla McCoy couldn't come back after the World Cup. She was injured right before Jamaica started its World Cup campaign. Latsko having an ACL injury. Kaya Simon never really getting healthy.
It's Groom. Groom can't score from here. Lashes it high. Would have surprised not one soul watching or in the venue if she had scored that. And we've reached the hydration break in Utah. Houston through Sophie Schmidt, a penalty to take a 1-0 lead. You're watching the NWSL Challenge Cup Championship presented by Budweiser. Welcome back to the NWSL Championship and the Challenge Cup. It has been a month together, all in the bubble. And for Houston, they have just lost Christy Mewis, who has spent the last 5 years fighting back into the national team picture. We'll try and get an update on the injury that sent her off. CC Kaiser came on. Mewis drew the penalty. Sophie Schmidt scored back in the 5th minute. And 1-0 to Houston in the 33rd minute. But I don't know that everyone's really all that surprised by the scoreline.
We knew both of these teams were hungry for this, right? I guess we were surprised that the goal came so early and it came off a penalty, because I really thought the way things were going, we would not see a single penalty kick goal the whole tournament. Also, worth noting that it was Schmidt that took the penalty when that would have been, you know, an easy opportunity for Rachel Daly to take the Golden Boot. But Smith, the oldest player on the team, most experienced, and that's her first NWSL goal since 2014.
Wow.
Well, when you don't play in the league for several years, that's what happens. You don't get goals in that league.
Time in Frankfurt. And before that, Sky Blue FC, Sophie Schmidt was positively beloved. Those were fun teams back in 13 and 14. Schmidt. Mike Watts, Jen Cooper, NWSL Challenge Cup Championship presented by Budweiser. Halftime, we'll unveil the best 11 presented by Google. Right now, Houston trying to come out of this hydration break with a little bit of vigor. Prince. Daly.
Offside?
Flag never went up. One would think that seemed to pop up a little bit.
Perhaps, I mean, that's always my assumption, because she does lead the tournament in offside calls.
Probably not by a small margin. There's CC Kaiser. Out of Ole Miss, she and Channing Foster lit up the SEC for years. Kaiser at first alone, and then Foster came in as a freshman and really put Ole Miss over the top. Matt Mott, the head coach there, really offensive style, fun style to watch. Big moment here for Kaiser. As you mentioned, more super sub than regular starter last year.
She talked about how she's really had to learn patience. She knows her chance is coming. And I love that she got to change her jersey number this season from 15, what she wore last year, to 5 now that it was available, because she's the 5th of 7 children. So she always wore 5 growing up, and her dad would chant fiber from the crowd.
Oh, Frico out of danger. DiBernardo. Julie Ertz. She has free license to come out of the back on the dribble. This left off by Daly. Foul, Ertz. And Visali face down. One wonders if Ertz could pick up a card for that. It appears she's going to escape the caution.
Visali coming into this match questionable after taking a knock in the semifinal. Seems like her leg and Ertz's leg get entangled. And like you said, Ertz is escaping the yellow card call. But Dash gets the free kick.
Alyssa Nair looks on. Beaten on a penalty in the 5th minute. Has otherwise not been challenged all that much.
Dash historically not known for their set pieces.
Here it is, Chapman down the line from Daly. Chapman delivers. Is looking for Groom. Kept alive for a moment, now blasted away. Shea Groom has scored some amazing flying goals. And Ertz, off that clearance, sends it over the byline. Corner.
2 of Houston's goals this tournament have come from corners, which was kind of, again, a turning the corner, right?
Rachel Daly said in the post-game interview after the semifinal, I don't think we had a single goal off a set piece last year.
I went back. They didn't have a single goal off a corner. They had a couple of goals immediately following a free kick, which is kind of off a set piece. But no, they had none off corners.
In that instance,
Not the same old Dash.
No, certainly not. Daly put her head on the line. They hit Schmidt at the far post and knocked it back across. This toward Groom and floated by Visali over the top.
And normally it would be Christy Mewis taking those corner kicks. She's taken the most for the Dash all tournament. But there, Rachel Daly stepping in. Bri Visali is another one of those players, Mike, who started with Chicago and ended up in Houston. She was drafted by Chicago in 2018. Couldn't break into the first team. And of course, 2018 was the toughest year for any draftee because of Boston folding. It meant that the other teams picked up all of Boston's starters.
It's like a handball and a free kick.
Naughton in disbelief. Oyster 2. Katja Korleva, our official today. She did 3 first-round matches in one of the quarterfinals. She's also officiated NWSL playoff games before, including the 2015 final.
Is that FC Casey?
FC KC beating the Reign in 2015.
McCaskill has an incredibly cultured foot. Strike this with her right. Julie Ertz is in the thick of things among the blue shirts, peels over the top. And now launched off the shin of Prince. Corner, Chicago.
Savannah McCaskill having a very frustrating championship game last fall. You know, Rory Dames has talked about it, and after that match that just, you know, they sat down. It's like, you know, what does she need to do? What does she want to do to get to the next level? And for this tournament, he's talked about she's done it.
DiBernardo. That won't get the job done.
DiBernardo, like Mewis, has taken almost all of the kicks for her club.
Did you put in your notes she's the all-time record holder for Chicago in corners?
All for the league.
For the league.
No one has taken more corners in league history than Vanessa DiBernardo.
Give North Carolina another couple of years, and I think they may have a player or two up in that conversation.
Well, they keep splitting who takes it, right?
That's true. Doesn't matter. I've seen way too many 15-corner games from North Carolina to think they won't catch up.
Speaking of North Carolina, of course, Lynn Williams right now holding on to the Golden Boot. She and Rachel Daly both have 3 goals and 1 assist, but Lynn has played fewer minutes. So unless Daly records a goal or an assist,
or someone else grabs
or someone else goes crazy, you never know. This is the Challenge Cup.
No,
you never know what's going to happen.
It's the Chaos Cup.
Hashtag Chaos Cup.
Sprayed high and long down the left-hand side. It's Hill. There's an incredible story sent to me yesterday by a member of the Real Monarchs broadcast team. They are the usual occupant of Zions Bank Stadium where most of this tournament was played. DiBernardo pushes on. DiBernardo crossing, simple. Steered away by Megan Oyster. Flex down, McCaskill reverses. Curling ball across. Enough on that from Chapman to steer it wide. Apparently the winners' medals got lost in transit. A Wild Plains Trains and Automobile effort to make sure that they had the proper awards to give post-game. Chaos Cup indeed. Another look at the cross.
Trying to get it to DiBernardo. Too much pace on that. McCaskill coming in for the corner. And of course, with Friday being Pioneers Day in Utah, everything was closed.
I did not realize the importance. I was told it's
I
Christmas.
didn't know that either.
Christmas and the 4th of July put together out there, which in the U.S., that's a big deal. Cross here, steered back by Schmidt.
Love that boot from Hansen. Oh, there's a whistle back there.
Had it gotten out, so a throw here for Chicago. There's Vasali, mentioned Red Stars draftee, played with the reserve team in 2018. As you had referred to. Long throw.
And since her mom's a dual citizen with the UK, she was able to go over, play with West Ham United, then Birmingham. She and Dash teammate Erin Simon playing in the FA Cup final for West Ham. And I love how she described it. She said she didn't understand what the game was or why 40,000 people would want to watch at Wembley until her teammates, her English teammates, said it's the Super Bowl of England. And she's like, oh, I get it now.
McCaskill running out of midfield and now slips it ahead. Rachel Hill. Hill back post. Sharples goes crashing in. That's a long way forward for Kayla Sharples.
Trying to atone for conceding a penalty. Or really just get your team on the board, right?
Well, she's still a little bit banged up here. She is, as mentioned previously, playing on a yellow card, something to keep in mind.
Looks like she's coming at Prince from behind. I'm kind of surprised there's not a call on that.
Sharples called her debut a dream come true. Certainly hopes the finale doesn't sift out to be the opposite.
The number of Chicago players that got their debut in the second group or first round game was insane. Rory Dames, for the first time in NWSL history, the first coach to bring a completely different starting 11 in back-to-back games.
There was an element of looking at one another going, who are these people? It's not that they don't have great careers or that we didn't actually recognize them, but compared to the previous game, a bit of a shock. We saw 2 goalkeepers in that game. The only halftime switch of the whole tournament.
That too.
They viewed it as almost 3 preseason games. The 4th game, bring your best. And be peaking at the right time. A look at the secret virtual watch party powered by Google Meet. You have made us so proud. Well, they're making that Houston crowd proud still today. Into stoppage time in the first half of the NWSL Challenge Cup Championship game presented by Budweiser. We know already the Future Legend Award is Ashley Sanchez. The MVP presented by Budweiser is Rachel Daly. And the Golden Gloves presented by Verizon belong to Kaylin Sheridan of Sky Blue FC. We'll unveil the Google Best 11 at the half. Well, let's look back at the half that was here on Twitch. There's a little bit of room here. Everybody's a bit out of sorts. And Gordon steps in with her scintillating speed. Also, as mentioned prominently over the course of this tournament, rightfully so, Pass It On Challenge, $15,000 she helped raise for mental health initiatives. This blasted away by Chapman.
And I think that's such a great choice of charity.
Here's the Chicago Red Stars fans in the secret virtual watch party powered by Google Meet. A lot of them gave a lot of money too. Get Your Mind Right, part of Healthy Hood, was the main recipient of most of that money. DiBernardo.
And I would think most of these players would really understand that after spending 4 to 5 weeks in this bubble. Several players have talked about it, all the coaches have talked about it, just the mental challenge of being away from family so long, being in a hotel but not being able to leave. We've seen it affect different teams in different ways. James Clarkson talked about that he feels those 3rd and 4th games of the first round is when they hit their mental wall.
Yeah, the first time we spoke to Rory Dames, the opening week of the tournament, said, Rory, we'll try and keep this call about 20, 30 minutes. He goes, I've got all night. It's just me in my room. Fire away. Daly. This is teasing. Nair, edge of her area, has to kick this away.
I like that Rory said 3 to 4 weeks in a hotel sounds great, unless you can't leave the hotel.
James Clarkson said his wife wants vacation after this. Said another hotel for another week. She responded, it's not all about you. Halftime whistle here. Houston trying to earn a vacation here. They're up a goal to 0. Sophie Schmidt. The goal on a penalty, her first in the league in 6 years. We're off and running here, Jen.
I love it. I love it. Keeping it real.
And Alyssa Nair and Chicago trying to come back. We've got some in the stadium. He had a big yawn right before that. That was the only yawn we had. Early penalty won by Houston, and they convert. Early chances for Chicago. Got plenty coming up here at halftime. Don't go anywhere.